Hello, welcome to my channel. So today's topic will be based on a couple of conversations that I've had with parents, and they asked me about my opinion on a very popular toy called Labubu. It is a toy that is out there, it's took over the world, it's creating big craze among children, it's very popular, sought after. It's a highly valued toy. People like to collect it, especially children. It came over to Canberra as well, to Australia, and so some parents express their concerns about the toy and what's behind it. Some are a little bit more supernatural. Some are just very practical. It's just creating this obsession in children and just taking their mind off things that really matter. So they asked me my opinion, and so I thought this is an interesting topic, so I did a little bit of research, and I found interesting foundings. I found certain parallels that resonate on a spiritual level with a little bit more sinister and darker forces, but also found in history, in demonology, a parallel with specifically one particular demon. What I'll do is I will outline my foundings and my comparisons between the two and brief explanations, and then I will leave at the end of the video. I will conclude the video with my personal views. So I'll start quickly describing who or what Labubu is. It's a toy designed by a Hong Kong toy designer and sold by a Chinese retailer that made the retailer billions of dollars. So it made a lot of money, a lot of profit. It's a little toy that looks like a mixture of a small imp or small child with some form of animal. They claim to be elvish, from elves, and a mixture of something else. It has this mischievous, tricky, but also a little bit cute face. There's many different types and many different colors, and children like to collect all of them. It's a highly sought after collectible. The way it works, it's being sold in boxes without any kind of inscription, so it adds a little bit of mystery to it. You don't know what Labubu you're gonna get, what color you're going to get, so it gives that fuel and anticipation. It fuels it even more. And so in terms of how it's performing on the markets, it's performing really well, and it has created certain elements that are controversial. People are queuing up, and not just children, even adults got over on that side and became obsessed by the toy. People are queuing up all over the streets in front of the stores overnight, just so they're waiting until the store opens in the morning and they can get their hands on the new merchandise. There have been fights reported between people or between children fighting over specific toys. There have been reports of overspending money on these toys. Just to give a bit of an overview, it's selling anywhere between $15 per toy, different sizes as well. All the way, the most expensive ever sold was for $170,000. So you can imagine the power it has over people. In Russia, for example, they haven't done it, but they're thinking of banning it altogether, because they can start seeing the negative patterns it has on people, especially children. Children are most vulnerable. In the UK, they closed 16 stores because they have been experiencing turmoil among customers because of this toy. It was creating lots of problems, arguments, thefts, repetitive thefts, fights, and so on. And for example, in Kurdistan, which is part of Iraq, they're banning it altogether because they're deeming it also, not just because of the influence or negative influence they see it can have on children, but also some people are claiming these supernatural occurrences or supernatural origin linked to demonic. And this is when and where I'm going to take it over to the dark side and draw the comparison with its, we could say, a twin brother, although this is going to be a matter of debate, called Pazuzu. Who is Pazuzu? Pazuzu is a demon that appeared in Mesopotamian culture, mostly in Assyrian culture and Babylonian culture. And it is a demon that is well feared, and it's attributed, or the attributes of these demons are southwestern winds coming through the country that brings along with it famine and plague, and diseases that are linked to these two. Usually when you have famine, you have plague and you have diseases. And all that was attributed to the demon of southwestern wind called Pazuzu. On the other hand, Pazuzu also had a positive attributes, namely because it was a protector in the culture of Mesopotamians. It was or he or she, they are binary beings, demons. It was a protector of children, in particularly children and mothers, but mostly children, from another demon, Lamashu, who was believed to lurk overnight or during night over the streets of the cities and dwellings, and attacking pregnant mothers, namely sucking blood from them, and also attacking and killing children or babies. So protection against this more sinister demon, Lamashu, was Pazuzu. And so what happened is it got, despite the fact that it was feared because of the attributes that I mentioned earlier, it was also given certain protective elements, and so it was to a certain extent venerated as a totem or a protector. So the statue of the demon were put in the houses, they were worn as amulets and totems. And this was that, we could say, kind of positive side of this demon Pazuzu. And so this is, to summarize, these are the comparisons. People like to compare Labubu with Pazuzu. Now I will outline where they really compare together and where they might kind of diverge a little bit. So I'll start with the first element, and that's the element of so-called zoomorphism. Both creatures, Labubu and demon Pazuzu, are zoomorphic. Now, what's zoomorphism? Zoomorphism is attribute where a deity, usually a spiritual being of some sort, is being represented in a particular culture with animalistic features. It's they take perhaps a head of an animal or a body of an animal morphed with human body, and the attributes of these animals and the attributes of the demon or the spiritual being are being transferred into the manifestation or representations of a figure that has animal human features. Therefore, zoomorphic. Zoo means animals, morphism means to morph, to change. And so both these little creatures are, because Pazuzu was also represented as small, zoomorphic. Labubu, it's a mixture of a small human body with rabbit-like, perhaps bat-like features with pointy ears, pointy teeth, showing a little bit of like playfulness, but in a negative, creepy way. It has a small body, which could be also impish body, like imp. A small elf, which they claim to be, mixture between animals, elf and humans, so that's a zoomorphic feature. Also, the counterpart, Pazuzu, the demon from Mesopotamian times, is highly zoomorphic. It's represented as it's a mixture of a dog face and bird wings, human body, scorpion tail, and sort of scalish skin that comes from fish and so forth. So it's both of them are highly zoomorphic features and figures. The other comparison between the two is the duality of their nature. Pazuzu, the demon, has been known for on the one hand, fearfulness, fear or some sort of despair. When it came around, it caused havoc, destruction, famine. But on the other hand, some form of safeguarding qualities, that it was protecting women and children from its demonic counterpart, Lamashu. Believe also in personal understanding of these things is probably it was protecting these children and pregnant mothers in particular, because if children and pregnant mother were to be harmed or eliminated, the demon wouldn't have any victims further down, or Pazuzu wouldn't have any victims to work on or to torment. So often what happens in this dark realm is that dark entities work together in collaboration, pretending that they're against each other, but they actually work together. So this could be also the case that Lamashu was harming new children and moms, but Pazuzu was protecting it on the surface, but only because Pazuzu wanted to have more victims further down the track. So that's just addition to the duality. Now we move over to Labubu. Labubu also has dualistic nature. On the one hand, it has a little bit creepy, mischievous, maybe even fearful appearance, but it also has, on the other hand, cute little appearance that is kind of lovable to a certain extent. And also it is attached to children. It is meant to be a friend of a child. It is meant to be a companion, and in children's mind could even be a protector. So there is this parallel, interesting parallel between the two to think about. Another thing, before I actually move forward, I'd like to go back to zoomorphism, which is the mixture between human features and animalistic features, or animal features. In the history, if you examine in the cultures, or ancient cultures, even current cultures, every time there was any kind of being represented as a zoomorphic being, it was usually associated with demons. We had these in Mesopotamian culture, such as Pazuzu or Lamashu, and other demons. We had these in Egyptian culture, like Horus, Anubis, zoomorphic figures. We had this in ancient Greek culture. We had this even in Christianity. We have one very notorious one represented as a zoomorphic figure, and it's Satan himself, because we have the mixture of God and a human body. Again, a demon, a major one. So this was just to summarize a little bit of a history over the different cultures related to zoomorphic representations of spiritual figures, and usually of, unfortunately, negative spiritual figures of negative nature. So back to comparison now. So we have covered zoomorphism. We have covered the duality of the nature. Now we're going to move on to the names. Labubu on the one hand, Pazuzu on the other hand. Both of them have very similar phonetic resonance. Both of them have exactly the same amount of letters, and both of them retain the same amount of vowels. So you have A, U, and U. Labubu, Pazuzu. Very interesting fusion. Now, when I did a comparison of numerical or numerological resonance of the names, found out that they do differ in some fronts. Pazuzu is more fearful and dangerous, whereas Labubu is more mischievous and a little bit creepy, but more mysterious. So they are. That's a similar. These are similar fields, but they're not the same. However, where they scored exactly the same vibration, we could say, or element, is on chaos. Both of these names strongly represent chaos. And chaos, as we know, is an attribute that is only attached to demons and evil spirits. Because God, Jesus, and love resonate on the vibration or energy of order, not chaos. And so this is an interesting phenomenon as well, that the names sound similar, but they also represent sort of similar things at the beginning. There's some differences where Pazuzu was a protector, Labubu on the other hand is a playful character. However, where they are exactly the same, it's the chaos, and chaos is a strong attribute of evil. So that's another thing to ponder about. Now, also to think on how evil works or demons. Now, demons cannot possess toys, and I'm not implying Labubus are possessed. It's also impossible to possess a toy. However, demons can use objects, even toys, as conduits. They can attach to themselves, to these objects, and they can use them as vessel to influence people who are in contact with the objects, who wear the objects, whatever the case may be. And if you examine the attributes that the toy Labubu is causing, they are more alarming than satisfying. So what it's causing is a high level of obsessiveness over the toy, high level of attachment, high level of financial reckless spending. People overspend, people get into debt just to collect the toys. Violence, people fight over the toys. And it creates a certain degree of anxiety of collecting and mystery on finding new toys and unmarked packages. All that is associated with evil, and those who understand how evil operates, how demons operate, they do the same thing. They enslave, they obsess. Obsessive thoughts come from often from dark forces. You spend money over things, you get yourself in debt, you fight, you have violence that drives your decisions before your thinking. You go down the path of anxiety and form of enslavement, because that's what they use to enslave you. So we have these parallels that are quite alarming, and they are more negative than positive. And they create a little bit of fear and a little bit of creepiness, just in a, we could say, quote unquote, innocent way, but enough to raise concern. And the other thing with this attachment of supernatural forces onto the object is, for example, when I traveled through islands of Melanesia and Polynesia, I came into contact with native people, and they introduced me to their culture and also the arts. And very often we see through those cultures, we see representations of spiritual forces in masks. They have masks that the tribesmen, the shamans are using to take on the attributes of the spiritual deity that is represented by the mask and mimic it. They use the masks, and I have been shown a few examples where they put the mask above their house to keep evil spirit out of the house. However, they explained to me that the mask always represents some form of deity or god, local one, of course, and the god has also, in some instances, negative attributes. It's a fearful god. However, they see it as a lesser evil, so these negative attributes of a god scare off more potent demons. So they're using fire to fight fire, just like what I described early on with Pazuzu. Although it was a demon in Mesopotamian, Assyrian, and Babylonian cultures, it was also used as a scarecrow, quote unquote, of a more potent and powerful demon, Lamashu. However, I believe personally, because I know how these demons operate, they work in collaboration. Just like in Polynesian cultures, you have all these objects and masks that represent purposely deities and even evil spirit to give qualities of these spirits, whether it's power, strength, and other things, to the wearer of the mask, or at least a dwelling where the mask is looking over. So that's why I never collected any mask when I traveled through Polynesia or Melanesia, although I really like some of them, but I felt also inside a bit of a creepy attitude or creepy feeling. So it also exists in this day and age, just giving a real life example of my travels and my experience in these cultures that are a little bit different perhaps from mainstream Western culture, but they still exist. And similar cultures exist in, for example, in Africa. There's lots of masks there that have the same attributes I described. So this is my comparison between the two. Now, to conclude and to give my own opinion, although I believe that there is definitely a parallel, and it's proven, the toys Labubu have influence on people, especially children. I'm not advocating the idea that they are demonic. I'm not advocating the idea that they are purposely made to be a conduit for demonic forces. However, whoever is watching this video, it's up to you to discern what resonated, and if you felt that there could be a parallel, which is also possible, and you are concerned because of your children, or you are thinking of start collecting these toys or whatever the case may be, then maybe the best idea is to stay away from it. If you feel that you are under the influence or your children are being obsessed, because again, this video came, I was approached personally by a couple of parents who are aware of these toys. I wasn't, so I know it can happen. Then if you think that your children are already under some form of quote-unquote spell or influence, then the best thing is to try to talk them out of it, and perhaps, hopefully, if you're spiritual, have a prayer of deliverance would work very well, and Jesus as well, of course, and take the information of this video to your heart, and do your own research as well. So take what resonated, take what didn't, and I hope that you will find the right way. Before I conclude, the last thing just came to my mind. It's important. When Jesus said that children are important in our lives, and he was overly protective over them because they're also very innocent, they are unstained from our human existence and from the materialistic world that we all get somehow infected by as we grow older. They're also a very easy conduit for spiritual forces, whether they are positive or negative. So this just came to my mind that perhaps this is one of the risks as well, that toys like Labubu may be targeted at children, because they can start creating certain early elements of fear or addiction or obsession, financial recklessness, overall attachment or unhealthy attachment, which also is domain of demonic realm. And again, I'm not implying they're demonic, but it's something to think about as a parent. So I leave you with this. I hope you got some interesting information from this video. If you did, please press like and subscribe. Bye bye.